and it's horrific to watch. And as you and I have spoken of before, we talked about Dr. Mattias Desmet, who speaks of mass formation. I'm going to say hypnosis, even though the original term was psychosis. This is an absolute cut into human psychology, extracting from psychological processes that were explored back during Nazi Germany.
Correct.
And this is related to when people feel lonely or alone, and they're in a place of fear with all the fear porn that was poured into our multimedia. Clients that I have were in total fear. People who normally would not respond that way, they had to recalibrate within their own being. How can I be in service in the world, and how can I reconnect with something? And they were, in fact, propagandized to, as you and I spoke of, and you said this as an interesting formation of this new agenda related to vaccines. The whole manifestation of this has become a religion in and of itself.
Correct.
And in doing so, people are connected. Even the most intelligent people in the world have been mass formation, hypnotically connected through fear porn. So with that, what do you think can be kind of a countermeasure to that? Because if there are so many, and there are approximately 60% of the population who has fallen prey to that, let me say, prey to this mass hypnosis because of internet and the social media being co-opted, what do you think, Ed, in your observations, would be a great countermeasure to that?
So, this is, at first, when this started happening last year, I used the term, it's an IQ problem. And then I had to change that because it's not an IQ problem. As you said, I know very smart people that have fallen for this. It's a discernment issue. And what does that mean? Discernment is, in your guts and your soul that something is not truthful, and you feel it and you know it, and you're very suspicious. And a lot of people have lost discernment in this case because what do we know? We do know that intelligence agencies have bragged in Reuters and AP articles about how they propagandized their populations early on in COVID to make them fearful, to get compliance. They bragged about this. This is not conspiracy. This is in Reuters and AP. So this is so if they admit to that, we know there's more behind the curtain. Okay, so they disarmed a large portion of the population with fear, and fear and emotions override logic and disarm people. So a lot of people got in fear, and they believed everything they heard to be true, and then they looked at anybody that didn't agree with that narrative as selfish and crazy and conspiracy theorists. So where are we today? So I have discernment, you have discernment. There's a lot of people with discernment. What has happened since this unfolded in the early stages of 2021? Unfortunately, we have now knowledge. So I had discernment, now I have knowledge. What's the knowledge? The knowledge is peoples are dying and the bodies are showing up in different forms and databases. Despite the mainstream narrative, there's a counter narrative that's the truth. And so there are people like myself and others that are exposing this truth. And so the goal is, I have discernment. Many people do. The people with discernment need to spread the knowledge that fraud has occurred, that life insurance companies reported 40% increase in all-cause mortality in working age people. So in year one of the pandemic, it was old people that mostly died. In year two, we had what we call a mix shift on Wall Street to mostly young people that shouldn't be dying from COVID. And that happened, and insurance companies are paying out large sums of money. We also have the VAERS database, the DoD leaks. We have CDC databases when you break it out by age that showed the millennial age cohort spiking to a new excess mortality into the fall of 2021. We have funeral home companies. So the data is everywhere. And anecdotally, people are starting to realize something's not there. So I have the knowledge, you have the knowledge is out there. So what's the goal? The goal then is to take this knowledge, and then you have to have the guts to act and take action. And this is where everybody comes in. This is how we change the world. Everybody has to do their part. And that doesn't mean you have to be me and be out in front. I've gotten, through the grace of God, my voice has risen. So I'm doing what he's directing me to do. But everybody has a responsibility to get off the bleachers into the playing field. And what does that mean? That means convincing a loved one to look at this knowledge. And it's different from a bunch of doctors yelling at each other. This is hardcore data of bodies piling up. And I also want to share that recently we discovered about 2-3 weeks ago, a database in the US government. It's from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's the household survey. It's the monthly employment report. Well, they ask about disability. And disability, since the vaccination introduction, is up 3 million. It was 29 million for about 5 years. Now it's at close to 33 million. That's a 10% increase in 1 year. The only thing that changed in 2021 was the vaccine. Young people didn't decide to mysteriously start dying in the second half of 21. And a lot of my naysayers will say, well, it's deaths of despair. It's the lockdowns caused suicides, depression, drug abuse. Well, the lockdowns occurred in 2020, not the fall of 2021. Group life policies, which is a very specialized unit of life insurance companies, are policies of working people that are currently employed by corporations. They get a death benefit. It's kind of a throwaway thing that none of us ever cared about in our careers, because none of us thought we were going to die in our 20s and 30s and 40s or even 50s. Yeah. They also, so the people that died that the insurance companies are paying out all these claims for are young. And in the fall of 2021, into the Q4 as well, the insurance companies saw this great uptick. And you cannot say to me that everyone decided in the third and fourth quarter of last year, those who were employed decided to commit suicide at the same time. There was no mass suicide I heard about. Not all these people that are employed overdosed on fentanyl, heroin, and opioids. People who overdose on those drugs, generally speaking, are not employed with a death benefit, okay? So we have this knowledge. We know what's going on. We have Dr. Naomi Wolf and her team of 2,000 professionals that have volunteered their time going over the Pfizer data releases. And what we're finding is shocking. It is fraud. And the safety data is garbage. So what is going on? Why isn't the government stepping in? Because there's too many people involved. They have to triple down and keep going. So we have the knowledge. We have to convince people one by one. Some of us have bigger voices than others, but you have to act. Go to a rally, convince a loved one, tell a doctor. We can no longer be rooting for people like me behind the screen saying, go get them, Ed. We all have to go get them. And I don't mean violently, I mean with knowledge and love and understanding. And some people are not going to respond to this knowledge, and pray for them. If they keep getting boosted, the outcome is the prognosis is grim if you keep continuing to get these shots.